I want to talk about the Purds, man. They're just taking it to the Blackhawks.
We'll get to all of it. We'll get there.
So what are we talking about now, then?
I don't know. Oh, are we recording right now?
Yeah, we had to talk about the Holtby thing live on the air. I mean, that was nuts. Live to tape. For the majority of our audience that don't watch hockey, a Leafs player got loose on a breakaway, and Holtby, the goalie for the Caps, came out almost to the blue line and got in front of him, knocked the puck away.
Anyway, what I wanted to say when you guys were talking about the Leafs' expectations here and versus the Washingtons.
The Washingtons?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Hold on.
I thought we were recording.
We are, but let's start proper.
The following program is intended for mature audiences.
What do you say we have a rock and roll party?
You're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports.
Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes.
And download every episode and more at basicallyasportshow.com.
Now here's your hosts, Zach,
Greg,
Mike.
And you're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Take it away.
Okay, so you guys were discussing the expectation levels of the Maple Leafs, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you're just happy to be here, and the fact that you're even competing with them is good for you.
Mm-hmm.
But here, to put it on the other side, the fact that the Leafs are competing with the Capitals is probably the worst thing for the Capitals.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is. I think it's a combination of two things. I think it's one. I think a lot of people underestimated this Maple Leafs team. I've seen them. I've watched them this entire season, and the thing that's made me most happy about them is that in the past, watching the Leafs, they would get, if they would go down 1-0 or even 2-0, that was usually it. You knew this team wasn't coming back. I've seen this Maple Leafs team come back from 1-0. I've seen them come back from 2-0. So this team has talent and their perseverance. So I think a lot of people underestimated them going in, and I think it's a combination of people just underestimating the Leafs and the fact that it's the playoffs, man. The Capitals just kind of don't play as good as they do in the playoffs.
That team not losing. Well, they lost one of the two games, but going to overtime, both games at home and losing one of those games, it's in their head already. Maybe just a little bit, but it's there. And it's going to start eating. It's like a little seed, and it's going to grow and grow and grow. And yeah, I mean, they might still keep it together and get past Washington or get past Toronto in this series, but they're not getting past Pittsburgh. That's just not going to happen.
No. Well, first, Mike, to what you're looking for to describe this Leafs team, if you want to use just a term that's only used in talking about hockey players and hockey teams, they have a strong they have a strong compete level. Very good compete level amongst this Leafs group.
I was just going to call them scrappy.
You call a basketball team scrappy. Hockey teams have compete levels.
No, I like scrappy better.
I in the standings, but they should. This team is a compete level of 6. You know.
I do like. I like the term Greg used actually, which is that I think they're just too dumb to know any better. They're too young and dumb to know any better.
Yeah, they don't know that they're playing. I mean, they know who they're playing, but they don't know they're not supposed to be in this.
Yeah, but I think what a lot of it is I think the Capitals were much more confident this time around that they were going to do it. But like you said, Greg, the fact that the first 2 games even went to overtime, now it's in their head. Mm-hmm. And even if they weren't thinking about it before and they were on top of the world confident that this is the time they're going to do it, the fact that they had to go to overtime those first 2 games changes the whole complexion of their mentality. And yeah, they might get by the Leafs. It might be a little bit tougher than they wanted to, but just that simple fact alone that it's going to be tougher than they wanted it to be or expected it to be, I don't expect them to be able to get by Pittsburgh. No. And especially the way Pittsburgh's looked in that Columbus series is...
Yeah, well, I was going to say, too, that what might help Washington's mental state a little bit here is if they reel off 3 straight wins in relatively easy fashion. That might stop that seed of doubt from growing as quickly as it could. But come on. What was they're the number 1 seed, right?
They're the President's Trophy.
Yeah, the President's Trophy. Well, of course, that's the kiss of death in itself. But when they had to go to overtime, they ended up losing the second game in overtime against a team that they really should have no trouble beating. Yeah, it starts all the doubt comes right back.
Well, not only did they have to go to overtime in both those games, they had to come back from down 2 goals in both those games.
Oh, that I wasn't aware of.
Yeah, Toronto was up twice in both those games.
Yes. Washington had to overcome a 2-goal deficit in the first game. In the second game, Washington had to overcome 2 1-goal deficits. But
make
they were
it 3-2 Toronto, guys. They just scored.
Woo-hoo!
Who got it?
Look at all those people in suits waving their towels in the lower bowl.
Hey man, that's Toronto hockey. Who do you think can afford to go to Leafs game?
You know what? I'm going to be honest. The Stanley Cup Playoffs are the greatest thing in the world as long as your team's not involved.
You know who's having a great time? Dart guy.
Dark guy. Have you seen this guy, Greg?
No.
In the middle of one of the overtimes in the second game, there was this Leaf fan in the crowd, face painted. Giant, face painted white with a blue maple leaf in the dead center of his face, but it's kind of part of it's been sweated off a little bit. He shaved his hair into the shape of the Stanley Cup. He's got this big beard that he dyed blue, and he's got a cigarette just hanging out of his mouth.
Here's a good rundown of it.
Sounds like my kind of guy.
It's not lit. It's just a cigarette in his mouth because the Washington Post was able to interview him and said, why haven't you lit your cigarette yet? And he's
not a lot of smoke in the buildings, man.
Well, no, that's not what he said. He said, it's 3-3 in a tied fucking game, man.
I love how if you scroll down, there's they photoshopped him into a Canadian Heritage Minute.
I saw that. I saw somebody try to Photoshop him as a bronze statue and put it on the Legends Road that they have.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so this guy drove all the way from Ontario to DC to go watch that game because, as was pointed out in, several Maple Leafs blogs, it was actually cheaper to drive or fly to DC and buy a Caps game ticket than try to buying tickets in the ACC.
Oh, my boy, Nazem Kadri. Woo!
So the Leafs, this guy became a sensation overnight, and so the Leafs gave him free tickets to tonight's game.
Oh, that was nice of them.
Yeah.
And, of course, there are some people bitching and moaning about it.
The Leafs, they're encouraging a deadly addiction. It's like, no, it's just a guy with a cigarette in his mouth.
It's not lit.
No.
It's not deadly until he lights it.
And it's not... There aren't Leafs logos on beer cans across your fair country.
Well,
my favorite thing is that since when does Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment encourage and promote life-threatening addictions? And then there's just a bunch of pictures of Leafs logos on beer cans.
Leafs logos on beer cans, Leafs logos on Crown Royal bottles. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, you know how many drivers that are smoking kill people in car accidents every year? Me either, because I don't know that it happens very often. Fucking drunk drivers are everywhere, so spare me the whole encouraging a deadly habit bullshit.
This is the thing that made me roll my eyes.
The Michael Jackson Thriller cover, that's pretty cool.
The thing that made me roll my eyes about that Dark Guy Backlash article written by Chris McKee, you go fuck yourself. He said the Leafs organization could have handed tickets out to a single mother of 2 kids or a student with a GPA of 4.0. It's like,
but he also didn't research the fact that the Leafs do those things.
Yeah, the Leafs do give
the top ticket distribution for charity companies.
Well, not only that, but it's sports, for God's sakes. It's not.
I know.
Come on.
And I look, it's like, oh, you gave the ticket to a fat guy with a cigarette. That must mean you hate children. No, It's just a funny guy who got popular. Jeez, can we have some fun?
I'm sure they gave tickets to Rob Ford at some point too. Come on.
Toronto Maple Leafs hate kids, hate kittens, and they hate puppies because they gave a guy with a cigarette free tickets.
Before Rob Ford had to drop out of his re-election campaign on account of being diagnosed with cancer,
that was the reason why.
Yes, but here's the thing: before that election campaign, before he had to pull out of that campaign, he actually went to a Leafs game, and he was walking around the concourse on the club level of the ACC, and every time, and as he was passing, crowds were chanting 4 more years.
Wonderful.
So why is he called Dart Guy?
In Canada, cigarettes are known as darts.
Ah, gotcha. Okay.
Smoking a dart.
It's one of those weird
I love it. I think this is what sports is all about to me.
Yeah, Dart Guy. I posted in the NHL playoff thread, Dart Guy is both the hero we need and deserve.
Right.
He's what all sports fans aspire to be. A little overweight, with a beard, painted face, and a cigarette. Probably has a beer in his hand that you can't see, too.
And we were wondering this time last week what was going to take Tank off the front pages. Well, here it is. It never fails. Dart Guy did it. And Dart Guy, I think, much more interesting.
That would be a good
Dart Guy's got a Barstool column coming Tuesday.
That would be a hilarious Glorious Sermon to Victory matchup. Dart Guy versus Unhinged Tank.
Right. I love Dart Guy. I think it's great.
And not only does he have the cigarette, but alluding to what Zach had said earlier, his rationale for why it wasn't lit was just the best.
Yeah, he didn't have a free 20 minutes to go outside and smoke it, so he just needed it in his mouth.
Yeah, well, there you go. I mean, that's half of what the addiction is. It's an oral fixation.
Yeah,
good for him, man.
Yeah, no. This is the real Leafs fan, not the people in the lower bowl. And it's funny because again, my girlfriend just pointing out these astute observations that we take kind of for granted. Yeah. And it's like, why is Toronto not? Why are all the fans not wearing blue? And I'm like, what do you mean? She said like the uniform of blue. Like, what do you mean? Well, in Edmonton, everybody was wearing orange. In Calgary, everyone's going to be wearing red. Why aren't the Leafs fans wearing blue? And I was like, well, corporate tickets. It speaks to the difference between a Leafs game and every other game in Canada. It's just,
the biggest problem is that the lower bowl, right? That's like the corporate area, and the thing is that the Leafs, like, they always sell out, and so like the games are always packed. But the way that ACC is set up is that like behind those lower bowl corporate seats are like lounges where there's bars and there's TVs and so on and so forth. So what happens is either before the game or between periods, all of those rich motherfuckers in the lower bowl go behind. They start drinking and socializing, and then the game starts. But they need to finish up all of their conversations and socializing. And then so even though the game's sold out, like the entire lower bowl's empty for like the first 5 minutes of each period. And then it just looks awful.
And slowly fills back up, right?
And then it slowly fills back up. Yeah. Leafs games tend to be like,
I'm looking at, over in the corner, right to the right of Holtby there. There's like 7 guys in a row. They're all wearing suits. Come on.
Yeah. That's
not hockey. That's certainly not playoff hockey.
No. I can tell you from growing up in Ontario, Dart Guy he's the real Leafs fan, as Zach said. He's the Leafs fan that we all need to put on a pedestal, and yeah. We need to encourage more of that.
And this is happening everywhere, too. It's just probably particularly prevalent in Toronto for some reason, but it's the same at, we've seen the Super Bowl turn into this over the years where it's nothing but these kind of people.
The problem with Toronto is that we kind of got to this spot ticket-wise, not through any kind of insidious plan. It's just kind of how it turned out because it's Ontario. Everyone loves hockey. Everyone loves the Maple Leafs. Therefore, tickets for the Leafs, it's simple economics. It's supply and demand.
Right.
Prices go up, and who can afford to buy the tickets are like the people in the upper percentages who want to go to a hockey game.
But if the Sun Market teams the Sun Belt teams can institute rules that state you're not allowed to wear an opposing team's jersey, can't we come up with a rule for Toronto that you're not allowed to wear a suit in the lower bowl, that you have to, like, we'll supply you a jersey here. You can have like a hat check thing. You trade in your stupid suit. Here's a jersey. Wear that during the game and then give it back to us when you're done. Because come on.
People can't, like, if they know they're going to the game that night, like, I know plenty of people that don't go to work in their jersey. Like, put it in your car, put it in your bag.
Like, exactly. That's another thing that's always kind of befuddled me about the lower bowl at the ACC is that,
God, there's like five more guys in suits.
I know people who make a lot of money who, those sort of tickets would be aimed at, and they own hockey jerseys. There's no rule that says that because you're a corporate executive, you can't wear a hockey jersey to a hockey game.
I always always, to me, like the NHL is more the people's sport than any of the other three. And maybe NASCAR more so than that even, but like this is the sport where you still think of it as the common man sport. Like maybe baseball a little bit, but the NFL is not the common man sport anymore at all, and we all know it. It's all about corporate tickets and the whole thing. The NFL's become entirely a TV sport, but to me, the NHL was still the you still saw a dart guy everywhere, and I'm disappointed. I didn't know it was this bad in Toronto, but man, oh man, the more I look, the more suits I see.
Yep.
The best thing,
funny, of course, too, is that like you look at all those old hockey pictures from like the Montreal Forum and whatever.
Yeah.
And it's everybody's in a suit with their fur coat and their hat.
Well, that was the style back then, though.
I know. Nobody wore jerseys back then, and so we went. Now we're like coming around on the other side where like you have someplace like Toronto where everybody's wearing a suit, not because they're trying to get up for a night on the town. It's just that's what they're wearing. But
and yeah, I mean, I have been not to Leafs games, but I've been over to friends' houses to watch Leafs games, and I've been wearing a jersey. And then after the game's over, it's like, all right, let's go hit up the town, and then you just take the jersey off and. Well, there you go. Like this whole mentality, I don't understand. I don't understand lower bowl ACC people. I don't get it.
No, I'm just disappointed. I mean, I understand that it's the economics, and in Toronto, I'm sure the Leafs are the ticket in town. It's not like you're going to see this in an Argos game.
Yeah, actually, that's why the Raptors tend to do so well is because they do well selling a lot of. Tickets to Torontonians who maybe can't get to Leafs games, but you can go to a Raptors game. That's almost as good, right?
Yeah. But I mean, it just says a lot, though, that Dart guy. It was cheaper for him to go to Washington D.C., which is not known as a cheap place either, and go to a Caps game there to see his Leafs and actually do it at home. That's maybe you got your prices a little too high if that's the case. I don't know.
But I support building the Dart guy bronze statue outside.
Absolutely.
That needs to happen. Another.
Oh God! There it is. Nope. Did he? Yeah. Okay. Tie game, guys. Sorry.
Leafs are the drug you just can't quit, huh?
Was it Willie Nylander? Come on, tell me it was Willie Nylander.
That's William Nylander.
Yeah. Yeah.
Billion.
Oh, that was nice.
Oh, you know what?
Now, Washington, now that seed just grew a little bit, guys.
Yep. Tied again.
You know what? I needed this after the shit-tastic start the Jays have had.
Yeah, that's been really rough.
Willie Nylander with his own rebound. Look at him go. He's my new favorite player.
I've been cursing a lot this episode, but between the playoffs and
it's an R-rated
just the Jays being... Why?
They'll be okay. Everybody freaks out the first 2 weeks of baseball. Nothing to be concerned about. Everybody will be fine.
I know.
Everybody will be fine except the Angels. They're actually bad. So,
Well, I mean, some teams are going to be bad, but if you're a contending team and things aren't going quite right just yet, nothing to sweat. But now at the end of the month,
this is why I would be a terrible baseball manager, because I try to keep that mentality, but I just end up like in the clubhouse yelling, everything is going to be fine.
3-3. Look at this.
That's fun.
Washington, this is bad for the Caps. This is the last thing they needed.
But speaking of just like weird sights during Leafs playoff games in the stands, I really liked it. Was it 4 years ago when they played Boston that first round that just absolutely made me physically ill? But during the home games, they gave out these white scarves with blue stripes, and and it made everyone look like they were at a bar mitzvah.
At least they just gave out regular towels this time. Not everyone is being, confirmed as a rabbi.
Yeah, they gave out scarves that looked like Jewish prayer shawls.
Where the whole crowd looked like a bench on a bench, but now
and because you pair that with the suits, and it looks like everyone's at a synagogue. Oh. It was Nylander with an assist from Austin 316.
Hey.
Yeah, and hey, here in the States, Mike, you get to hear Shane Doan at the intermissions talk about him. Isn't that
Wait
fun?
a minute. Time out. Back up a second here. Okay, this is a question I have, all right?
Yes.
Nylander took the shot, all right?
Yeah.
Rebounded off Holtby. Nylander got his own rebound and put it in. Why does Matthews get an assist on that?
Because he gave Nylander the puck the first time?
I know, but what do you think? But to me, I would just think that once he shot and missed, that cancels out Matthews' assist.
Hockey just gives us, like...
I know,
it's the last two players to have touched it get the assist.
I know, that's how goalies get assists sometimes. Yeah, but
right. Oh, Pecorine has 2 assists, and the Chicago Blackhawks have no goals. Yeah, it's.
But doesn't it make more sense though that because after he shot and it bounced off Holtby, that ends the play that Matthews set up. That's it. It's over.
Yeah, you would think that. That's what makes sense. But again, Greg,
I know
it makes sense of an hockey.
That does happen sometimes because every now and then you do see players who score and it's counted as unassisted, so they're obviously not counting the last two.
That's what I mean. I mean, now is this is it like in baseball? It's scorer's discretion, basically.
It's basically scorer's discretion.
Well, I'm fine with that too.
There's no cut and dry rule. It's basically just like in some cases, right? It'll just be the scorer will just be like, okay, obviously no one immediately set it up, so it's unassisted. In this case, they're probably like, yeah, he took the first shot, but Austin Matthews still gave him the puck to be in that situation.
I was going to say, you could argue the other way that Matthews set him up to be in the spot to take the first shot, and then he got the rebound and put it in the second, so okay.
Yeah.
Either way, it was a nice goal, and it ties the game. And if you're a Washington Capitals fan or a Washington Capital at all, you got to be freaking just a little bit right about now.
Can we talk about moving on to other teams that are having way more trouble than they should be? The Boston Bruins aren't exactly vanquishing the Ottawa Senators like we thought they should have.
Well, I think that's partially just because, like we'd all talked about in the preview, and like I heard from almost all of the American media that I've heard talk about this series, nobody knew what the hell the Senators were. And so, we all just assumed, well, we don't know what the Senators are, so
they can't be very good.
Boston should be winning. But, really, all these games in that series have been close. Senators could have easily won that first game, and they could be up, 3-0. But Boston's sticking with them in this game here. This is just a series that's extremely tight. And it's one of those series where it's going to be super exciting and probably entertaining, but they're going to lose to whoever they play in the next round, whether that's the Rangers or the Canadiens.
Yeah, these two teams. Okay, I was going to say something that I probably shouldn't have said, so I'll just rephrase it. It's a
say what you should have said.
Okay, I said it's the battle of the short buses.
Okay, that's funny. I don't know why you thought you should say that.
It's just I'll just leave it. These two teams, and they're just not very good. And look, you can say that. Oh, Ottawa was the second, seeded team in their division, and that's all very nice. But one, it's not like they had that seed locked up, and two, as we pointed out, they're the only team in the playoffs with a negative goal differential.
Yeah.
So
they're a low-scoring team that wins with the trap and goaltending. That's what they are. They all season they did just enough, and they've
but to
a certain extent that sort of shit works in the playoffs.
I was just going to say in the playoffs, if that's what you've got. That's not the worst thing to have in the playoffs because, let's be honest, we don't see a lot of 8-7 games in the playoffs,
No.
No. And this Bruins team just – what happened to the Bruins? Because it seemed like, okay, in 2011 they won the Cup. Was it that year? Was it the next year or the year after they lost to Chicago in the finals?
That was 2 years later, I think.
2 years later?
No, it must have been the next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it just seems that ever since they lost to Chicago, this team has just kind of been – they haven't dropped off the face of the earth, but they've slowly but surely degraded to the point where now, yeah, they're a solid lock for a playoff spot, kind of, but nobody expects much of them. It's just really weird.
Would I be wrong in calling them kind of like the Rangers 2.0? Like, Rangers light, kind of in that respect?
Kind of. Yeah. Kind of. Another team I would say, and I know that I don't want to – this is hard because right now the Houston Texans are complete garbage. But to use a football analogy, I'd say like the Houston Texans of maybe 3-4 years ago where it was like even if everyone was really excited that they're going to make the playoffs, but at the end of the day it was like, do you really expect the Texans to win the Super Bowl? And it was no. But
right. I think
the
Bruins don't have the gear anymore. They had it in 11. They don't have it anymore.
They had it in 11. They had it against Chicago. Like
that was 2013. It was 2 years later.
Yeah, they had it in 2011. They easily could have won the Cup in 2013. It just didn't break their way. But since then, it's kind of they've just kind of become a team that, yeah, they'll make the playoffs, but we're not expecting them to go anywhere.
Can I just say, too, about this series that I give absolutely zero fucks about it? I just don't care. I guess if I had to root for a team, I'd take Ottawa just because I want Canadian teams to win. But other than that, I couldn't care less. It has absolutely zero interest to me whatsoever. Every one of these other series, I can look at and go, okay, there's a reason I'd like to see this. That one I look at and go, I just don't care.
I nominally want Ottawa to win, but it's really a case of, Ottawa's just Ottawa. I have my own problems with them as a Leafs fan, but I suppose them advancing wouldn't be the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, them advancing and Boston not. That's probably a good thing.
See, and even like with Boston, they're an original six team and they've got all the history and stuff. But to me, I don't, and they don't have like the Boston hate like I have for the Red Sox. I don't mind the Bruins. I just don't. I'm completely indifferent to them.
Thanks to that Bruins Leafs playoff series from 4 years back. They rank right up there with the Red Sox when it comes to like Boston hate for me. Like,
they're your Denver Broncos basically.
Yeah. And
you will find a way to hate on a person when they rip your heart out like that. You find all sorts of ways to hate them. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and and you know what? I don't care. Starting next season, they are a bottom feeder for the next 10 years. I will gleefully root against them every single night. There's no way they can get out of my bad graces. Other series, I guess.
Before we go out west, I want to just on my Blue Jackets real quick.
Well, we've still got two more Eastern series.
We got to get to those. Your Blue Jackets, Gregory.
Do we want to go there? What are the other Eastern series? We did Washington, Toronto, Ottawa, Boston. Rangers, Habs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one's just been a damn good series. Like, there's not like really any storylines to pick out of it quite yet, but it's just been good hockey.
It's been
really solid series.
Rangers, Canadiens.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I haven't seen any of it because it's been on against my Columbus games most nights.
Yeah.
It's actually been really.
But I'll get a chance to watch it because the Jackets will be done tomorrow, and that'll be that.
It's been really awesome because I don't want to say I have a soft spot for the Montreal Canadiens. In fact, they are one of the Leafs' biggest rivals. So and they're French, so I view them with suspicion as the
Sacre Bleu. Is that how you say it?
Oh yeah. So I view them. I view them with suspicion as any good Anglo-Ontarian should, but. They are basically hockey's New York Yankees. There's a lot of history wrapped up. So I always like to watch them play, and I always have had a soft spot for the New York Rangers because of the Kitchener Rangers, and it's entirely superficial, but there it is. And so I've been really lucky in that the Rangers Habs have been on opposite nights of the scheduling breakdown from Leafs Capitals. And so every night when I'm not watching the Leafs Capitals, I've been watching Rangers Habs. And damn. That's
See, I was listening to Dan Patrick today, and he was saying that the Rangers haven't been playing well. I thought, well, they must be playing a little bit well because they've won a game in the series.
Well, they won the first game, shutout by Henrik Lundqvist. Yeah, they could have won the second game. It's just been, I thought it's been pretty solid both ways. I wouldn't say the Rangers have played bad, but they've been good. And Montreal I think Montreal just also has a different gear than the Rangers can get to.
Well, yeah, and I picked them to win the Eastern Conference, and I'm standing by that. I think they still will. But what about
so long as Carey Price keeps doing his thing, I think they'll make a run at it at least.
And then I just on my Blue Jackets, this is an observation I made, and I'm going to see if I'm right about this or not. It seems to me that the Jackets seem to be more interested in beating the hell out of the Penguins individually than they are interested in beating them on the scoreboard.
Yes. Is that
a fair assessment?
I think that's been the case ever since that playoff series they played against them. Mm-hmm. They're so concerned with throwing Brandon Dubinsky at Sidney Crosby and just trying to beat him that it's like you take away from the rest of it. But on the other side of it too, like that's part of it. They just look bad in those first two games.
Yep.
Bobrovsky can't buy him a save right now.
No, he picked the worst time to start giving up 3 and 4 goals a game.
After a Vezina caliber season too.
But
he was.
I think that, we talk about the Capitals. I'm going to go back to them for a second. And I think this happened. We saw it with the Seattle Mariners in 2001. You see teams that are like regular season teams. They're great in the regular season, but they just don't get it done in the playoffs. And I think the Jackets had one of those good in the regular season type years, but you looked at them even before the playoffs started without even knowing who the matchup was going to be, and you're just like, I don't know how they can do this, no matter who they play. I would have not favored them no matter who they played in the Eastern Conference. I'd been like, I just don't see them how they can get past any of these guys because they seem to lack something. I don't know if it's good scorers. Zach, you mentioned a couple, I think maybe earlier this year, that they need defensemen, which, they've got Seth Jones, he's an up-and-comer, but I don't know that they've got the guys.
Seth Jones, an up-and-comer. Zach Werenski's a young up-and-comer. They have a good young core defenseman, but they don't have
yet.
Yeah, they don't have like the elite veteran guy that you can rely on in those tough situations.
Plus, and let's not take away a thing either from the Penguins. They're just really good.
Yeah, that's it too. The Penguins have just been clicking on all cylinders in the series. The Jackets have.
I've got something to say, and I've waited all season to say it, and I really don't want this to come off as I'm hating the Blue Jackets, because I do love the Blue Jackets, and I think it would be one of the best things for this league if the Columbus Blue Jackets could establish some sort of long run of success. But I also really hate John Tortorella, and as much as I wish good things for the Blue Jackets, they, like any other team, need to be punished for employing him. And I've been waiting for this. The thing about John Tortorella is that you live by him and you die by him. He's great at turning, sort of a culture around. If you need a hard ass to sort of whip a team into shape, he's great at that, provided you have the players who respond well to that. The problem is that once you start hitting a snag, his default mode is to just yell and berate people, and when the chips start getting down, that could have a demoralizing effect. And so
I was watching.
I'm not saying it's all on coaching, because the Penguins are just a really, really good hockey team. But I think, and I think Zach's right in that this team, the Penguins, just sort of get under the Blue Jackets' skin in the worst way. But this John Tortorella, I don't think he's the type of coach who's going to be able to coach you back from a 3-0 deficit.
Well, they talked about that. I think it was before Game 3. I was watching the pregame show. Mm-hmm. I watched it on Fox on the local feed. I don't even know what it was on, like where it was at in the NBC family of things. But they were making comments like Tortorella was surprisingly upbeat after being down 2-0. And things like that. Like he's not responding like they expected him to. But I've always been of the notion that, and I'm with you, Mike, I think that a screamer, yeller, kick-ass kind of guy can get you to a certain point. But Rare is a guy that that wins a lot of cups doing that. You know?
I mean, John Tortorella, yeah, he did win that cup in Tampa, but if you go back to that playoff series, if you go back and you track how the Lightning did over the course of those playoffs, he never really was in a chips are down situation. He was down 3-2 to Calgary in the finals, and the team won 2 straight to win the cup. But being down 3-2 is something that you can overcome. He never, over the course of winning that series, found himself in a hole, is what I'm saying. And I think
too that when you've got a young team, you want to kick ass for a little while, but that only works up to a certain point with a young team. Mm-hmm. Then you need, I don't even know what you need at that point, but I know that his act will, I'm sure, quickly tire with a young team, because as they get more veteran and learn a little bit more about playing in the National Hockey League, they're going to be kind of like, look, we don't need this bullshit anymore. It's a very, very fine.
It's kind of like why college coaches don't tend to do well in the NFL.
Right. It's a very
raw thing. It's a raw thing.
Yeah, it's a very fine line to walk, and while it's working, it works well, but it can so easily, and not just in Tortorella's case, but any coach, any philosophy like that, it can really go off the rails quickly if you can't maintain that fine balance. And I don't know if you will or not. They're down 3-0. They haven't been good. They're not gonna win a game in the series. It's gonna end tomorrow night, and that's.
You don't think they can eke out at least one?
No, I really thought
not after game 3.
No, when they
that was I didn't see that game, but I was tracking the scores, and that was just a gut punch.
That was brutal.
They tied it up. They got it tied up, and I thought, okay, probably going to go to OT, but you've got the tying goal, you've got the momentum, it'll be okay. And I don't know, like a minute or two into OT, I thought, no, they did it, they got it this far, but it was a waste of time. It was a waste of effort.
I think I ranked Game 3 for the Blue Jackets Penguins a 6 on the Cleveland scale.
Yeah.
For reference, the Leafs choking against the Bruins 4 years ago in Game 7, that was a solid 12. So,
but you got to remember too that it makes a big difference if you're expecting to win going in, which I wasn't. So even though I wasn't surprised by the fact that they ended up losing, because really, that they got it back to 4-4 surprised me more than anything else. I remember you were a lot.
When you texted me, Greg, you were going on. You were talking about how the Leafs had won Game 2 and had tied their series up, and I was like, it's only a tied series. I'm not trying to be unrealistic about my expectations. You were like, well, at least your guy showed up.
Yeah. I don't know what else to say about it. I mean, there's not a whole lot more to say about the series. Pittsburgh's beating them in every aspect of the game, and that's the end of it. And let's move out west, basically, I
guess you could just hope for an epic Marc-Andre Fleury breakdown.
Well, that was the thing, too, that, we talked about it in the previous show, and you're like, well, the one thing the Penguins don't have to worry about is Marc-Andre Fleury. Well, guess what? I don't know. Because then I thought, well, hey, if this guy's back in net, who knows? But they were never in it. They're not going to be in it, and that's that.
If Columbus was going to win a game in this series, after the way they've played the first 2, it had to be Game 3.
Yeah,
and it looked like it was going to, because they were playing so well. They came out with a lot of fire, and it went away really quick. And then the Werenski thing with the puck to the face. And the Penguins scoring right on that, it's like,
yeah.
And all the calls that were going for Pittsburgh against Columbus, it just was never. Columbus was fighting an uphill battle the entire time, and the fact that they got it back tied was a victory in itself in a little bit, but to lose the game ultimately, I mean, they're kind of a young group too, so maybe they'll fight back and win one. But the way Pittsburgh is going, I think, and just the experience that they had from last year, this is the time for the Penguins to close it down. And of course, the worst thing was, going all the way back to Game 1, we said the Penguins are going to win this series, but we were also more confident. We said that their big problem of years past has been fixed. Marc-Andre Fleury is no longer in their nets.
Yeah,
and then Matt Murray gets injured in Game 1 warmups, and I said, oh no. Marc-Andre Fleury is going to be the starter. Here is Columbus's time.
That's what I was just saying that. That's what I thought. I thought, Fleury with him in net. Okay, here we go. Nope.
No, not at all. And the Penguins have just been, in every inch of the game, they've been a better team than Columbus.
Yeah, and like I said, at times it seemed like that the Jackets are more interested in beating them, on the ice than they are on the scoreboard.
It's a mental. It's a mental thing. Like, you can't just want to hurt Sidney Crosby. You've actually got to try to beat him.
Yeah. But they're not going to win a game. And I mean, it was a good season and all that, but it was just, I think Pittsburgh, I've been talking about the gear. Pittsburgh's got the gear. You saw it in game 1. You saw it in game 2. You saw it in game 3. It's just like they do what they need to do. And when the Jackets tied it, like I said, for a minute I was confident, and I thought, no, Pittsburgh will find a way to get that goal in OT, and that'll be that. And that's exactly what happened. It's just the way it is.
Yep. And it's too bad, like you said. And the thing that they have to work on going forward, though, is the Blue Jackets can't be Colorado. They can't be Dallas. This can't be a flash in the pan. They have to use this and build something out of it.
Right.
They can't just have this be a fluke season.
To the West, in the home of my up 3-0 St. Louis Blues, who I picked to lose in 5.
Well, see, here's the thing. There's 2 ways to look at this. The one way is like, hey, the Blues are up 3-0. What could possibly go wrong? And the other way to look at this is the Wild and Bruce Boudreau in his first season there are down 3-0.
You know what?
So funny.
You know what I'll say, Wild fans? When all of you were swearing up and down that Bruce Boudreau wouldn't get bounced from the playoffs during Game 7, you were correct.
You were right.
You're right. You won't lose a Game 7.
5 instead.
Although, as Mike and I said while you were gone, Greg, Bruce Boudreau in his press conference last night said, what are you going to tell the guys to get them back on track tomorrow? The next game. What can you do to get this team? He's like, well, we just gotta take it as a Game 7 mentality. I'm like, no, Bruce, don't tell them that.
Anything but that.
No, that's the worst thing you can tell your team. Boys, it's Game 7. Well,
if it's, now we know the Blues are going to win like 5-0, and they'll score 4 goals in the first period, and that'll be that.
Yeah, right.
I think I referred to the Wild as the Columbus Blue Jackets of the West last week, and they're really bearing me out here. It's one of those things.
I would say, instead of being the Columbus Blue Jackets of the West, I would say that given that time is marching on and there's going to be turnover, if not next season, then over the next couple of years, I think it's safe to say that if the Wild don't pull this thing around, they are our heirs to the San Jose Sharks.
You think?
The Wild? Not yet.
Not yet. I mean, they're headed in that direction for sure.
Playoff disappointments do we have to have?
If you're shooting for San Jose, all of them, basically.
The difference, though, is when Minnesota's made the playoffs the last few years before this, they weren't ever this world. The Sharks were winning divisions and President's trophies. They had expectations to win it all. The few times the Wild have made the playoffs the last few years, I don't think they've had the same sort of expectations put on. This is the first year where it was like they were leading the division for so long, and Bruce Boudreau's here, and they're going to make something of it, and then they didn't. And I think I wouldn't put them up there yet, but what I think is, I think the Wild, this group as currently constructed, they hit their ceiling, man. They're not. Their ceiling is like upper echelon mediocrity. They're pretty good, but they're not a great team. They're not a content team. They're a pretty good team.
I'm going to beat the same damn dead horse, but they don't have the gear. It's as simple as that.
Right, yeah.
And with the Sharks comparison, Mike, I mean, how many times over the years have we seen the preseason prognosticators, San Jose Sharks, or Stanley Cup champions this year? We've never seen that with the Wild that I know of. You know what I mean? I see where you're going with the comparison, but I'm with Zach. I think we got a ways to go to get there yet. And the Sharks were always like President's Trophy winner, going to win the Cup this year, Stanley Cup contenders. You don't hear that about the Wild. They're always like a 5 seed or a 6 seed or whatever. But I think it's funny though. What could possibly go wrong? The Blues are up 3-0. I shouldn't be comfortable at all.
It's just, I don't know. As we talked about before the series, these are both teams that have their own fair share of playoff mishaps in their history.
Yeah.
And It was just going to be, whoever loses the least advances out of this. But
like we talked about with St. Louis last year, is it possible for this team to go 8 games and have both teams lose in the 8th game? Because that would work out, I think.
Well, the standard thing is going 7. The standard game in series like this is a 7 games double overtime where one team accidentally just kicks the puck into their own net or something.
But talking about that though, maybe not the Blues so much up 3-0, but. If Minnesota comes back and gets the next game, gets game 4, do the Blues start getting a little nervous?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I don't think so either.
I don't think the Wild, like you said, the Wild don't have that gear. They're not going to win 4 straight. It's just
if the Blues are up 3-0 on Chicago or Anaheim, then they're probably going to get nervous. But not with the Wild. You're right.
No, with the Blues, Jake Allen just turned on at the right time. They have hot goaltending, and they've gotten just enough goals.
He made a couple of nice saves in the game I was watching the other night in this series.
In game 2, he made he was just making saves left and right for these 5-6 save bursts at a time. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah, but that was the game I was probably watching. Was it Saturday night? Was that game?
No. Game 2 was Friday, I think.
Okay, well, yeah, okay. It was game 2 I was watching. Yeah, he looked good.
He's looked good after a season of not looking good. And a weird thing happened for the Blues at the end of the season, where Vladimir Sobotka had been playing all season in the KHL. He had left the Blues 2 years ago and wasn't going to come back. And the Blues were like, okay, if you want to come back, you still have to sign a extension with us or whatever. But because he was still Blues property, they had him on some sort of reserve list. Anyway, the season ended in the KHL for him, and he decided that, okay, I'm ready to come back to the NHL now. And he agreed to a 3-year contract extension with the Blues. He played the final game of the regular season, become playoff eligible, and then he had a goal in each of the first 2 games for the Blues. And he's been this infusion of offensive skill and talent that they hadn't had all season, that now all of a sudden they did for the playoffs, and it's paid off in spades in the first couple of games. Just a weird little thing that the Blues have benefited with.
That sounds like cheating almost.
It almost does, but it's well within the rules.
Yeah, I know. It just doesn't seem fair.
A St. Louis team cheat? No. No.
How are the Cardinals doing? Are they winning, or is the
they're not doing well at all. They're 3-9.
Well, there you,
I think. Yeah.
There you go. The shaman has switched his mojo.
Yeah. Cardinals are off to a horrific start.
Well, of course the shaman had to switch his mojo up with the Rams leaving. It threw off the whole balance. He had to change something.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're going to get to it, but St. Louis, stop being such a whiny bitch about this. You lost the Rams. Don't sue the league over it.
Oh, are they serious?
Yeah, they are.
They sued the entire league and all 32 of its member franchises over losing the Rams.
It's like the city, the county, and the stadium authority or convention.
You know what
authority.
I do if I'm on the defense, the legal team for the defense in that case? I walk in and I cite precedent. I say this happened to them once before. In 1987, the Cardinals left town. They can't hold a football team. I rest my case.
I'd walk in. I just show up blown up pictures of the crowds at St. Louis Rams home games that are empty.
Yeah, come on.
What do you want? What do you want?
Look, you lost the Cardinals. Here we go.
Almost.
You lost the Cardinals, and you got the Rams, they're bullshit. Let's be honest about it. And then they left too because you can't support an NFL team. So shut up. Go to Cardinals games, watch the Blues when the Cardinals are terrible, and be quiet. Simple as that.
Well, they're also mad because their MLS bid looks like it fell through too. So the extra money they were trying to pool together that the Rams didn't end up using, that they were going to put towards the MLS bid, that's fallen short too. So they're trying to get some sort of win out of this for some political win, but it's just not there. So stupid city. Anyway.
That's what you get for your shitty pizza.
Yeah. But a city with pretty okay pizza, although I would classify it more as a pie than a pizza. Chicago's having a little rough go.
What the hell's going on with that?
I don't know.
The Purrs.
Pecorino woke up.
Could it just be that they're tired? This is a team with a lot of mileage on it.
Yeah, I mean, they've played, let's see, what do you got to figure now? God, they've got to have almost an extra season of hockey on everybody else at this point over the past 4 or 5 years.
More than that, probably, yeah.
10.
It's a lot.
10, 2010, so 7 years.
Yeah.
The 2010s when they first won the Cup.
I mean,
modern
it's
era.
as simple as that. And they've won it, 3 times in the last since
3 times, and they've made it to the conference finals at least once in one of the years they didn't, and they've always gone to at least the second round.
I don't know. I mean, sometimes maybe it just and I don't mean this as a knock, but maybe it just doesn't mean that much to them this year. You know, you go, you show up, and there are your 3 rings already sitting there, and it's April, and you've been playing hockey for seems like forever now, and I don't know. Maybe the Preds are just good, but like I told you, Mike, I would be more concerned or less concerned if I were Chicago if this had happened where they lost in Nashville, but they dropped 2 at home to the Preds. Now they got to go to Nashville and play in the Biscuit and Gravy Dome and try to get back on track there. And I don't know. We'll really see what they're made of, I think, at this point.
I think I think I mentioned it earlier, but the stat to me that just blows my mind about the entire series, Pekka Rinne, the goaltender for the Predators, has 2 assists, and the Blackhawks have 0 goals.
He's outscoring them. The goalie's outscoring him, yeah.
Yeah, he has more points than everybody else in the Chicago roster.
Boy, they've been shut out twice?
Yeah.
Twice. 2 shutouts in Chicago, yeah.
Wow. Well, okay, there you go. If you're looking for your hot goalie, I think we found him. Man, at home twice in the playoffs.
Yeah, and Pekka Rinne
they're done.
Kind of a bad season from his standards, like a pretty darn bad season when it comes to him.
I mean, come on. This is the Blackhawks here, and they couldn't score at home in 2 games. Wow. But
then again, the Blackhawks have had the Predators' number in a lot of situations too, so I wouldn't say the series is quite over yet. If they lost tonight, that'd be one thing. But if Nashville goes up 3-0, even though it's the Blackhawks, I wouldn't see them doing.
I think that's where that mileage Mike's talking about really comes into play. If they go down 3-0, and you're looking at your 3 rings you've already got already, and everything else all combined, maybe then. But they're still the Blackhawks, and I talk about the gear. The Blackhawks definitely have the gear. At least they used to. I don't know if they still have it anymore, but that's surprising me. I didn't know they'd been shut out both games.
Mm-hmm. Well, the first game was 1-0. The Predators scored like 7 minutes in, and then that was it for the entire game. And then game 2, the Predators won 5-0. They scored like 3 goals in the third period to close it out. So it hasn't been all that close because the Blackhawks weren't all that dangerous in that first game either. They just not clicking and getting some decent goaltending for Pekka Rinne, and that's about it. I mean,
I think Mike's right. I think it's just the mileage catching up with him.
Yeah, and these Preds, of course, are just still that collection of dudes that they somehow cobble together every couple of years. Victor Arvidsson, do you know this guy's name? No,
I've actually heard it, believe it or not.
Well, there you go.
But I think of him as playing in a band.
Yeah, he's the bassist for Radiohead.
I was thinking like the bassist for Talking Heads or something, but okay, yeah.
Admiral would have been a lot more active in the thread if it was Radiohead.
Yeah, no kidding.
Of course.
Well, how are the Hawks fans handling this so far? I can't think well.
They've been quiet.
I think when you're a fan too, you get at a certain point you hit this level of all right, well, that's it. We're kind of bored too.
Maximum density or critical mass or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's just a little surprising to me. And now, especially, I mean, I knew that they had the 5-0 blowout, but I didn't know that the game 1 was a shutout also because this is another one I haven't been paying that much attention to.
Yeah. Well,
wow.
I think too, if you're a Chicago fan, not only do you have the 3 cups in the last 5-6 years or whatever it is, the Cubs just won.
Right.
You're just pretty happy with everything, all things considered. You're like, this is fine.
Yeah, and the Cubs look really good again this year.
Yeah, I mean, the White Sox fans are probably the ones that are biting their fingernails, and all the Cubs fans are like, just shut up. We're fine. We could lose every game in every sport for the rest of eternity and be okay. I don't know.
What about your Ducks?
Well, let's see, how many words would that be? There's only 4 words that really need to be said about the first 2 games of this series. They can't win here. As the chant that we put up in both of those games, the Flames have now lost their last 29 games in the Honda Center.
Wow.
Playoffs and regular season included.
Wow.
The last time they won was a first-round playoff game in 2004.
Wow.
It's been a bit. Or no, I guess that was 2005, 2006 was that game. But they haven't won in the regular season there since 2004. It's been a bit for the Flames, and that kind of explains a lot of things too, because the Ducks haven't played their best hockey, but it's one of those things where when you see the goals that the Ducks have been able to score, especially the game winner in Game 2, it's just like, that's just bad luck. Like, that's just somebody's out to get you. And like,
I mean, what are the odds of losing 29 straight? I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, and there's nobody on that team that was there the last time they won a game either. And that roster's been turned over several times since then too.
Yeah, I mean, that's
so it's not
wild.
like the same group that keeps losing. It's just
and you would think too that just out of sheer luck they'd get a win in some meaningless regular season game in March or January or some shit. Yeah,
right. And I think over that time too, it's like only 7 overtime or shootout losses. Like 20 of those, or I guess 22 of them now, have been in regulation.
Wow,
pretty bad. And the Ducks could play a lot better. The Flames.
Well, let me ask you this:
the Ducks went through these like second period lulls in both of the games. The Flames came back, but
so have the Ducks played? I don't want to say poorly enough, but if they played at a point where Calgary could go back home and get 2 wins and tie this thing back up, if the Ducks don't up their game.
If you ask all the experts, because they're big into the Canadian team playing in Canada, and they don't really think too much of the Ducks in a lot of places. You think so? But I don't think so. I think the Ducks take at least one of the two up in Calgary, whether it's Game 3 or Game 4. And then they come back and close out in Game 5. That's kind of how I thought going into the series. And seeing it play out, that's kind of how I feel about it now. Like, even if Calgary wins the next 2, they're not going to win in Anaheim. And the best they could hope for is to win all their home games and push into a Game 7 and then, hope that the demons that the Ducks have are bigger than the demons the Flames have in Anaheim. And that's the best they could hope for, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. Again, I haven't seen much of this one either, but I think you guys make quick work of these dudes.
Ducks are just a more put together team, a little bit bigger, a little bit just more complete. Goaltending for the Ducks has been a little bit better, I think. They've had, like I said, they had just a couple lulls in each of the second periods, and as long as they can correct that, they're fine. Like, I don't think Calgary's been overly dangerous in either of the games. They made it close, but again, the puck luck not in their favor right now.
Yeah, and then we've got San Jose and Edmonton.
Right, which I feel bad for anybody that stayed up to watch that game last night. One of the most boring Stanley Cup playoff games I've ever seen. It was 0-0 into the third period, and Edmonton scored a goal. San Jose couldn't clear it. Guy just got it and backhanded it right bound net, and Martin Jones missed it. But the first 2 games were pretty entertaining up in Edmonton. A couple overtime, or at least one of them was an overtime. And San Jose won the overtime game, and then Edmonton came back in the second game, and I don't know, it's been a little up and down. Again, I haven't seen anything out of those 2 teams that makes me a little too looking forward to the next round. Not to count my Ducks before they hatch, but I'm not overly concerned with either of those 2 teams either. San Jose just, I think Edmonton will ultimately end up winning because despite San Jose coming back and winning that first game, they just haven't looked great. They look finally like they're old and that they've reached the point of expiration on this team. That they finally need to shed the old guys on this team, which who knows if they finally will or not. But
no, when they probably should have, they just fired the color guy instead.
Yeah. Well, we've been talking about them, Thornton and Marlowe. We've been talking about those guys moving on for a couple years now.
Yeah, and this is the last year on their contracts this year, so they finally might be just put out to pasture and say like, "Hey, you've been great to us here. If you want to retire with us, that's great, but." You're also free to pursue any other opportunities should they come up.
See, I go back.
That's what I would say.
I would go back to stuff we've talked about numerous times before. I don't know if you're a Sharks fan at this point. I don't know what you're doing. If that makes any sense, I really don't.
Yeah.
What's the point? I mean, they've because this has been going on. How long has this been going on with these guys now? I mean,
the Sharks have been making the playoffs consistently like 2003.
They finally broke through and made the finals last year, and just got steamrolled by the Penguins.
Well, they made it to only their second Western Conference final last year.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I just don't know that. I don't know. I mean, I guess I got to commend them for sticking with it, but I don't know what you're doing. Why bother? Why would you bother with the regular season, I guess? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I've only gone through...
they have out there. They do have that rec league, though.
I've only gone through jokes, and this whole regular season, I was like, these are fun, but, how much longer is it till April? Like, I couldn't imagine going over that for the past, 10 years.
Yeah.
10 plus with the Sharks.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably like being like a Patriots fan these days. I mean, basically, well, not with the Sharks, obviously not, but you're waiting. Well, I remember this with in the 80s in the NBA with the Lakers and the Celtics and the Pistons and the 4 or 5 good teams. And you see it even now in the NBA where you're just waiting to get to the playoffs. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Edmonton's looked good the past 2 games. Cam Talbot with 2 shutouts. But my problem with Edmonton still is that most of their goals come on the rush. They're not good when they have to set up in the offensive zone, if that makes any weird sense.
Mm-hmm. No, it does make sense, yeah.
You would think that giving a team offensive possession time in the zone would be a bad thing, but for the Oilers, they can't just find their way to the inside. The chances they do get blocked or go wide or...
They're to use a basketball analogy, they're more of a fast break team than a half-court team. Yeah.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, I was trying to think of a way to say half-court in hockey terms, but it's just in the zone team. Yeah. But, the Pacific Division, no offense to, if anybody wants to go to sleep on some of these games, fine. They haven't been some of the most exciting. The Ducks games, I think, have been pretty entertaining only because they keep letting the Flames back into it.
Boys, I think we're going to OT in Toronto.
And we got 30
it
seconds.
Looks like that.
But I've seen goals scored pretty late in these playoffs
27
already.
Seconds, plenty of time for the Leafs to bang one home here.
You got the puck in the zone, in behind the net, out front.
Come on, boys, get it out there. Come on, here we go. Oh,
penalty on the Caps. High stick.
Look at this.
Barry Trotz.
I'm going to say it right now. If Toronto wins this game, they win this series. I really believe that.
That's
Mike's Maple Leafs. Look at this. Whatever happened, you can forget the Washington Capitals winning the Cup this year. They're done.
Yeah.
Even if they manage to get past the Leafs, they are not getting past the Pittsburgh Penguins. It's just not going to happen.
No.
Because the Penguins are
trying to bang the glass in the corner.
I actually realized, discovered that the Caps have been losing to the Penguins in the playoffs far longer than just, I guess, the current era.
No, really?
Yeah, they've been losing to the Penguins since the 70s.
Wow, because the Penguins weren't good in the 70s, were they?
They made the playoffs here and there.
Well, everybody made the playoffs back then.
Or at least the 80s. Or at least the 80s, but
you're getting OT.
We are going to OT for the 3rd game in a row. It's been a hell of a series so far, man.
Schedule, Mike?
Pardon?
How's your sleep schedule been?
I've been a bit more ragged than usual.
See, now I think this is great because I love overtime hockey, but Mike, it must suck for you.
Oh, it's been terrible.
Because I noticed this yesterday with the Jackets game. I'm like, this is great. If your team's not involved in it, you'll love it. But if your team's in it, it's just like, I can't take it. I just can't.
Well, and in the other game, they're still tied at 3-3 with 1:33 left, so we could have dueling overtimes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Second. With the Blackhawks game on hold and the Ducks game starting in 20 minutes or so.
Oh yeah. Well, you're from the proud city of Calgary though. So
the Calgarys, as I've called the Flames all series. Or like somebody pointed out to me, like, look at that Calgary fan. He's all decked out. He's got his hair. I'm like, oh no, you don't know him? That is Calgary.
So, Zach, what do you think of the Lions uniforms? Mike and I did an entire special on them because we're just that dedicated.
My reaction? Meh.
Uh-huh.
They're football uniforms. That's for sure.
That was kind of our reaction.
They're not bad. They're not bad, but they're not good. They're just, they fill out, when you ask somebody about a football uniform, well, does it have numbers on the check? Check. Does it have a helmet? Yeah. Does that helmet have a stripe? It doesn't need to, but this one does. Yeah, it's fine. Or is there anything truly obtrusive about it? No, not really. Is it bright and angry? No, really. If anything, it's subdued. It's kind of dark. Sometimes the gray can blend into the blue.
They really need some white.
Really gets under your skin about it. Oh, no. Yeah, I could use some white outlines on the numbers.
They're outlined in anthracite, guys.
Yeah, apparently they're. See, some shots made it look like they were white outlined in silver, but apparently what it is silver numbers outlined in anthracite.
Right. Yeah.
Blah, whatever.
Yeah. See, you get the tongue tied thing too.
I can never say that stupid.
Okay,
word.
let's see. Let's do.
It's dark gray.
Anthracite, colloquialism. There we go. We got those two out of the way. Okay.
I know that some people weren't huge fans of blue pants. I actually like the blue pants, especially the ones with the stripe. I don't like the solid blue. I like the blue with the stripe.
I don't mind the blue pants because I think they're really going to look nice with that. The white jersey really pops nicely, I thought.
Yeah. The only thing I don't like...
it would be a killer look with the gray pants with the stripe if they do that, which I've heard that's actually the blue pants aren't going to be the quote-unquote primary road look. I've heard. I don't know if there's any truth to that or not, but that the gray pants are actually going to be the supposed primary road look will be the white jersey with the gray pants and the stripe. I don't know if they'll do that or not, but...
That's how it traditionally was, though. Yeah. But if I had to tweak things about this uniform, I would make either put outlines on the numbers in white or make the numbers white.
Yeah.
Add some white to the pant stripes. Because just the dark gray and blue is in that shade of blue, it's a little drab, which is, I mean, it's very Detroit in that sense, but you can use a little bit of white to kind of make things pop a little bit more. And the lions on the shoulder just doesn't work.
No, that looks cheap. Just looks cheap to me.
And I know they were. I like the William Clay Ford logo thing that they have, but because it's not in the same styling as the lions on the opposite side of the shoulder, it just looks bad. So if you're gonna stay with this motif and have the lions thing, you got to put it on both and then make the WCF just a chest patch or something.
Yeah, like it used to be.
Yeah, and besides that, it's a few tweaks from being a perfect uniform, but it's also not a bad uniform. They'll look fine. They'll look like a professional football team well enough.
Yeah, that's kind of where we were at too. They're okay. Nothing really horribly offensive about it, but nothing that great either.
And that unveiling ceremony was one of the most underwhelming I've ever seen.
We talked about that, and we were happy that there wasn't a bunch of Nike speak, but they blew up some shit, and this big giant lion thing lit up a bunch of times. Then they just put spotlights on 4 mannequins, and that was it.
And then after the 4 spotlights went on, you actually heard the PA announcer go, "The escalators are behind you. Please leave."
Yeah, basically. Yeah. But yeah, it's an okay. I liked what they were going for, but it really needs to be brightened up a little bit. I think the road uniform is going to be the better looking of the two, just because it's got more color.
Right. Well, and it's brighter. Based on them revealing the throwback uniform with these, it's clear that they're trying to get back to that aesthetic of the throwback,
right?
Where it's the gray on the blue. But that works for a throwback because that's how things were back then. But it just doesn't work on the modern look. And then the color rush is
no.
Well,
what was I going to say? I think the number font too on the I think they should have stuck with the number font from the throwback. That would have made it look a ton better to me. Because if you're going to go with those dark numbers, they can't be skinny like that. They've got to be big so you can see them. And I think a block font would have helped a lot with that. But other than that, I mean, it's fine. I don't know that it's significantly better than what they were wearing before. I mean, I'm glad the black's gone. But
as I look at these, I can just tell that, like, if you're a broadcaster trying to identify player numbers from that far away on a Lions game is going to be difficult.
I think the worst mistake that we've ever made with U.S. copyright law is allowing number fonts to be proprietary, because that just ruined everything. Because now everybody's got to have their own number font. It can't just be a plain old block font. It's got to be the Detroit Lions font, and I hate that. But what was the other stuff, Michael? You wanted to talk about the Timberwolves?
Yes. So
Maple Leafs win.
Woohoo!
Maple Leafs win. Breaking news.
Woo!
Fire up the breaking news music. The Maple Leafs have won in overtime.
Woo!
I think that goal was kind of soft, actually. Let's look at the replay, but
seriously, I'm just happy to be here, guys.
I'm just happy to be here, but fuck you, Washington.
The Caps is in trouble, folks. So we got to go. Give us a replay. Who scored it?
Barry Trotz looks unpleased.
Wow, that's funny. I'm usually the one that's way behind on the feed, and I'm out in front on this one tonight. This is weird.
Well, no, I just wasn't paying attention. I was on the other channel, missed the start of the OT. That was really quick into the OT then.
Oh, they don't have the clock up right now. Let me see. Here we go. Here it is. Okay. Was it soft? It looked a little soft. Let's see if it was.
It deflected off somebody.
Oh, maybe not.
That was actually a nice play.
Very nice. Okay, I was a good deflection play. Yeah, that was a nice play.
Very nice.
Very nice indeed. Very nice. And the Washington Capitals down 2-1.
The Leafs have a lead in Game 3 of a playoff series against the President's Trophy winners.
Yeah.
Live reaction from a Leafs fan, Mike. How'd you feel the boys played out there today?
It was a good group effort. They went out, played 60 minutes of hockey.
More like 63 minutes, but okay.
63 minutes of hockey, you know.
What do you think of the effort from Dark Guy tonight? He looked
Dark
like
Guy was there. He contributed to the team. That cigarette was really going. I really hope they relaxed regulations and just let him light that thing up.
Oh, what's with the bringing out the giant Leafs flag on the ice? I like that. All right. Good job by your Maple Leafs there, Mike. They might actually pull this off. Whatever the case, now. Now it's in Washington's head. There's no question about it.
Mm-hmm.
No question.
Eventually, Ovechkin's just going to be like, fuck this. I can just not give a shit and then go play in Russia for rubles.
Yeah, he can get bags and bags of rubles and not have to worry about it.
I'll go play in KHL. They let me play in the Olympics. Don't have to deal with this bullshit.
Let's see. We got Purds Black. Oh, no, now we're in Boston with Ottawa.
Yeah.
Well, I'll go to that one for OT for a while.
They just started that OT.
But anyway, back. So if Mike, unless you've got more, we'll move back to the logo talk. After the breaking news, again, if you're just joining us.
Okay, yes. So, last week, actually, as we were recording last week's show, the Timberwolves of Minnesota unveiled a new logo, and it's just kind of there, and it's kind of like the Lions.
The Timber Coyotes.
The Timber Coyotes. It's like the Lions uniforms, actually. And just like the Lions uniforms, it's made by Nike, and just like the Lions uniforms, it's not bad, it's not good, it's a perfectly passable professional basketball team logo. And I really wouldn't have anything to say one way or the other about it, but then Nike decided to do Nike speak, and it pissed me off. There is a link. You'll notice that the A in the new word mark doesn't have a crossbar.
Oh, God.
And they describe it as a, quote, team rune. The team rune A is a representative piece of the history of the wolf and the state of Minnesota.
What?
Yeah. I told you guys, this is pure.
What does that even mean?
Well, as I was telling Zach during our break, this is one of the few cases where Nike Speak has pissed me off to the point where I did legit old-fashioned thumbing through books research. I've got this old book that I got from my grandfather on just Viking history, right? And so they mention runes, and it's obviously about how there's a lot of people of Scandinavian heritage in Minnesota. That's obviously what it is. So I pull out this old book, and I go thumbing through to see if there's a rune chart. And sure enough, there is. Long story short on the runes. There are a lot of different runic alphabets, but there is no rune that is an A minus a crossbar that means either wolf or Minnesota, probably because the Vikings didn't know what the fuck Minnesota was.
Right.
But I was thinking, okay, maybe there's a Viking rune that is just like an upwards pointing point that means wolf. Well, I found a rune that looks like that A.
Yeah.
And it means wild ox.
Well, close enough.
Close enough. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's an animal, 4 legs, mammal. Yeah, okay.
Some people, not the team.
Paul Bunyan dealt with a blue ox. The team colors are blue.
No, he had a blue wolf.
Bunyan, Minnesota. I don't get it.
Babe the blue wolf.
And see, here's the thing. If they would have just not said anything, I would have been like, oh, those kind of look like Viking runes. That's kind of neat, I guess. And I wouldn't have paid it. But then they decided to pull this bullshit about it means wolf in Minnesota.
They took it too far.
It's a team rune. So it's not necessarily a Viking rune, Mike. It's they took that rune and they made it their own.
See, but I'm with Mike. Had they just said we made the A look like an old Viking rune and left it at that, I'd have been like, okay. I think it's kind of stupid still, but all right, that's fine. But no, they've got to take it the whole way.
I said when they revealed these things, between like the obvious Nike include, because this is Nike's first rebrand.
NBA, yes.
Yeah. So not only, like, I hadn't thought about it, and then somebody said, well, this is Nike's first rebrand in the NBA. I said, oh, that makes sense with the fucking neon green. Why? Like, when we first saw it, I'm like, that's stupid. And now it makes sense, and that's bad. And now this rune nonsense. Did anyone see what the rest of these little plus marks were they anything?
No, I was trying to figure it out.
I haven't seen them. This is the only one that I was able to find a screenshot of.
I'm not going to go look for it because I really don't care. But
all I know is that the star is supposed to represent the Northern Lights. That was in their press release.
Well, great.
But that is like, I mean, that's like if you took the Minnesota Timberwolves off that, I would think it was the Coyotes logo. Right?
Well, the Coyotes Twitter account, of course, said, "Hey, cool logo." That's when they released it. Because I mean, you put it side by side, and yes, I know a wolf is not a coyote, and there's only so many ways you can portray a howling feral dog, but they look pretty similar.
I think they look really similar. Yeah.
Now, I heard some other people, granted this wasn't the team making this claim, but I heard some other people defend it, saying that there are Viking runes that look like the M in this font.
There are.
And I looked that up, too.
Okay.
That rune means 2 horses.
Oh. So if 2 horses and an ox for a team called the Timberwolves.
So
that's the thing, though. Like,
any of those letters mean wolf in Viking is what we need to.
Actually, I would have thought there would have been because, you figure there are a lot of wolves up in that part of the world. But as far as I can tell, there are no runes that by themselves mean wolf.
See, Nike's just got to learn when to tap the brakes on these things and leave well enough alone.
See, you know what, though? I mean, as I kind of stare at the logo a little bit longer, I do see the iconic jaws of Husky Stadium in that. So. Very close.
Well, this is good, but nothing's ever going to touch the Syracuse football numbers that were reminiscent of the Twin Towers or the skyscrapers or whatever.
Yeah, the New York skyscapers.
Yeah. So we're going to put numbers on our jerseys in a school that's 300 miles away from New York City and has absolutely nothing to do with the other place, but okay.
Yeah.
Also, although no, my all-time favorite actually is the new orange represents the passion of the dog pound. The brown remains unchanged.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. This.
My favorite is the iconic jaws of Husky Stadium because the Arkansas Razorbacks are known for playing in Washington's Husky Stadium.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yep.
Well, we could go on. I mean, Nike Speak, there's just so much to work with.
Nike Speak was actually a glorious tournament of victory entry at one point.
Was it?
Yeah, I remember it was in my bracket against Iron Man in the second round.
That was a victim of a matchup, I'm sure, then, because that thing should have gone a long way.
Well, and speaking of Nike Speak, Mike, there's a very prominent Nike school that we also have news about. Right?
Oh, yes, there is. Yes.
Greg, this is important for you and I.
Okay.
The Oregon Ducks will tone down their uniform colors for the upcoming season.
Really?
According to the Oregonian, comes from Oregon's football equipment administrator, said we're going to try to stick to more traditional colors this year, trying to kind of simplify a few things.
Like, say, school colors, maybe?
At Oregon, traditional could mean anything from silver and highlighter green to Kelly green and yellow. The Ducks wore silver and white in their playoff championship game, and for years, fans of cheers, Oregon zigged, one other program zagged. That was from the Oregonian article, that last bit. But the equipment manager says they're going to try to keep it traditional. Whatever you want to call traditional for Oregon, I guess, is up to interpretation.
But you know what, though? I honestly, seriously, for a second, we called this a couple of years ago when we talked about this. We said that what will happen is that eventually Oregon will go back to the traditional route because that's the only place left for them to go.
Yeah.
And
when they've done the traditional, when they've done the regular green and yellow, they look great.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It's a very sharp look.
They made it looking really, really good.
Yeah. But yeah, this is...
They did it wasn't a straight throwback. It was sort of like a modernized uniform, but it was in traditional colors, and it had the mascot logo on the sleeves. That looked really nice.
Yeah, the Fighting Duck uniform.
Yeah.
I like that, too. Yeah. They... At this track meet I was covering over the weekend, the Mount Sac Relays. Oh, by the way, Ottawa scored winner.
Scores your game winner, yes, and goes up 3-1 now in the series.
2-1.
2-1.
So just to recap quickly, just quick veer back into hockey. All the Canadian teams lost game one. All of the Canadian teams then won the next two, except for Calgary. Get your shit together, Flames.
No, they will not.
Look at the Sens go. All right. How about that, huh?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Cool.
We've got some good hockey here in the first round of the playoffs, I must say.
Yeah.
See,
this
jersey. This is a nice jersey. Why the Ducks should just wear this all the time?
Well, I was going to say we make fun of the Ducks a lot, the Oregon Ducks, not the Anaheim ones. Not every uniform they've done has been a miss. I mean, they've done some really nice stuff over the years. The problem is they don't stick with anything long enough for it to even really make a mark. Like we called it a couple years ago, this was bound to happen where they just ran out of places to go.
All I'm saying is that the news that Oregon's actually going to wear their school colors actually got me to post the Star Wars Return of the Jedi Death Star destruction celebration scene in the college football thread.
And on that note, we will call it a night. Go Leafs. You're my new team right now, Mike.
Leafs.
Go Leafs.
Go Leafs. Go.
And go Ducks
Leafs,
and all that other stuff.
Go Ducks and go Blue Jackets.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Go my St. Louis Blues. Anyway, follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports. Subscribe via iTunes, Stitcher, iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker,
the iTubes,
yeah, iTunes,
the iTubes in the internet hallway,
the cyberspaces.
Okay, we'll see you next time.
See ya.